Plague's Tale Innocence is like the buffet of games. It's one serving of action and adventure, one spoonful of stealth with a little bit of horror sprinkled all on top. And to be honest, when this game first came out, it was all over my radar. But it quickly fell into my backlog due to other games coming out at the same time. I can't quite remember what those games were, but I can say for certain that it wasn't Crackdown 3. Sorry, Terry Crews.
No! I'm already in your head.
And since this game is on Game Pass, and it's 2021, the year of delays, thank you COVID, I figured now is the time to jump into the world of A Plague's Tale. And after 15 hours, I finished this grand medieval fantasy tale full of gripping characters, angry locals, inquisitive inquisitors, mysterious old ladies, and of course rats. Lots and lots of rats. And after coming out on the other side of this dark journey, I have to say that I was surprised by what this game had to offer. The characters and story were much deeper than I expected. And the environments were well designed and the setting is filled with precise details that really ground you in the world.
No one is going to let us in.
But that's not to say A Plague's Tale Innocence isn't, well, innocent. The game is far from perfect, and at certain points it's downright frustrating. In this spoiler-free review, we'll break down all the elements to find out if this dark, mysterious game is worthwhile, or if A Plague's Tale is one game you should avoid like, well, like the plague.
They've unleashed the rats.
And remember, our scale for rating games is pass, buy, or rent from Gamefly. Gamefly can also mean play on Xbox Game Pass, which in this case it does since currently A Plague's Tale Innocence is on Game Pass. And remember, if you like this video, subscribe or hit the bell or do whatever YouTube wants you to do. All hail the lords of YouTube. And remember, for every like this video gets, a ginger somewhere gets a soul. Okay, enough promo, more Plague? That is a sentence I never thought I'd say after 2020. Alright, so what is A Plague's Tale? A Plague's Tale is a heavily narrative-driven story. In some ways, it feels like a medieval Last of Us, without zombies, of course. You're Amicia, daughter of a local lord in 14th century France. When the game starts off, you're in the forest with Pa. You're hunting boar, practicing turning apples into applesauce with your sling, and, you know, living that lordly life. Mom's back at the homestead like usual, taking care of Hugo, your bashful brother that's been locked away from the outside world for the most part of his life because of a mysterious illness. But little bro's illness aside, life for Amicia is pretty good. At least for the first 20 minutes before everything slides into shit. And out of nowhere, a plague emerges in the form of a bunch of rowdy rats that start patrolling, well, the streets, the forest, anywhere, looking for anyone and anything that they can turn to mouse food. Entire towns get sick overnight and turn on each other. In short, Amicia's world, well, the whole world actually, gets burned to the ground in a second. And from the ashes rise two main dangers. First are the rancid rats. Hordes and hordes of them. They are endless. And these boisterous bad boys are more belligerent than a pre-pandemic Black Friday at Target with only one PS5 in stock. And these rootin' tootin' rats are ready to gnaw down any morsel of tasty flesh they can get their hands on. And that happens to be you and your fellow companions. The second threat is the Inquisition, a religious sect hauntingly hunting Hugo because of his mysterious illness, while using the plague as a stepping stone to fill the power vacuum that's left because the whole world has gone to shit. And the story of A Plague's Tale follows the adventures of Amicia, Hugo, and their merry bands of friends as they struggle to survive and cope in this new bashed and brutal world. On the surface, the storyline only boils down to a few narrative threads. What gives this game depth, and was also the biggest surprise to me, is just how well done the relationships between the characters are handled. Let's look at Amicia and Hugo for example. throughout the game, we watch them go from strangers to siblings. The start of the game, you get the sense that Amicia is protecting Hugo mainly out of family duty rather than she's actually worried about his well-being. But the relationship develops in such a way that by the end of the game, Amicia would do anything for Hugo. And me, as a player, totally bought into this relationship.
What? A monster?
Of course. The underground lakes are magical. Huge, ancient monsters hide in their depths. And watch out, they're very hungry.
No, they're not.
And it's not just Amicia and Hugo. All the cast of characters in this game are well done. They all form deep and meaningful bonds that really put you in the story and have you rooting for the people involved. And the evolving friendship between you and your fellowship of fine feathered friends is just as deep and meaningful. I felt myself pulling for characters to survive that we'd only seen from a distance and feeling relief when they finally met up with us. And walking away after finishing the game, I can honestly say that I liked every main character and I hated every main enemy. And that's because the characters are so well done that it carries the story even when the story isn't compelling. Overall, the narrative is straightforward and does a good job of ramping up the tension between all the different powers at play. However, if there's one thing I complain about when it comes to story, it's that it drags on and on towards the end. I feel as if this game could have easily been a few hours shorter and just as impactful. Alright, so let's talk graphics. First, you have the environments. The environments feel lived in. The world of A Plague's Tale is very bleak, so the somber tone is fitting. The environments instill a real sense of danger in this dark and unforgiving world. One big highlight is the use of color and lighting. The developers were great at using color and tone to add to the story and tension. Character models for the main cast are fantastic, although you do see some clunky animations from time to time. One very noticeable point, which is sort of understandable being that this is not a AAA game, is that you'll see the same few enemy skins used over and over and over again. This didn't take me out of the experience at all, but it was definitely noticeable, especially the one guy with the long dark hair that is in almost every combat encounter. Much of the stealth, puzzle, and combat gameplay revolves around navigating the hungry hordes of rats. These red-eye rodents are straight evil, and they only have one weakness: light. Think Pitch Black, but instead of a night vision Vin Diesel, you're a normal vision teenage girl. And instead of flying aliens, you have thousands of pissed off Mickey Mouses.
Wolf! You don't talk to me like that!
Okay, maybe those aren't similar, but they do share one same rule.
Stay in the light.
The three major aspects of the game are combat, puzzles, and stealth.
Come on, ain't nothing here.
And many times, all three are rolled together into a single encounter. When it comes to fighting soldiers, Amicia is outmatched, so direct encounters are discouraged.
Perfect.
In A Plague's Tale, it's not just about taking down your enemy, it's about staying hidden and using your abilities to manipulate the environment to your advantage.
Teach you.
Whether that means luring enemies away, or turning them into a rat snack so you can sneak past the hordes untouched. And that's what most of the gameplay is made up of, using your sling to manipulate the environment to sneak past rats or soldiers. But because you unlock special shots for your sling that let you manipulate the environment in new ways, the gameplay doesn't really get tiring. The combat is engaging and fun. There are some downsides though. One major downside is the auto aim. It's just too overpowered. I never felt like skill was needed to take down these enemies. I only had to make sure I had enough time to pull up the aim before the enemy reached me, and the game would do the rest. Another area where Plague Tale fails to impress is in its puzzles. Most of them amount to pushing box A to location B and then climbing up, or pointing a light from spot A to spot B so it's safe to walk across. There's just little to no thinking involved. In the entire game, there was only one puzzle that really stumped me, and even that one I was able to solve within a minute. I was really hoping in this end-of-the-world game that these puzzles would be a little harder and give me a little bit more break from the tension. Next, we're going to talk about music and sound. Sounds are another area that this game excels at, whether it's the crackling of a fire or the sounds of thousands of rats chirping.
I pay a ransom for the Darun children, and
The voice acting is also really well done, especially Hugo, whose soft voice sells you on how naive he is to the outside world.
Hey, Froggy, there are so many.
Amicia is also expertly voice acting. Her voice acting slightly softens as her and Hugo's relationship progresses.
Hugo, think of the frogs. Remember how they jumped?
And what's more impressive is that there's no direct moment where they go from stranger to the person they care the most about in the world. We just see this relationship progress in real time through the voice acting and subtle character movements. That makes the characters feel alive and do a lot to sell these relationships between these ragtag group of survivors, even if some of the talking animations seem just a millisecond behind sometimes.
You see? Look at us. We've lost everything. What do you
The
mean?
music also stands out. It fits the time period and dark themes of the story perfectly.
Oh my god.
Are they all dead?
This is a world in chaos. The music reflects that sadness of a world in disarray, a world that's now gone, and I dig it. I also like that the soundtrack isn't overly complex, but it is excellent. Alright, that brings us to performance, and I did have two big issues when it came to performance. First is that a few points throughout my playthrough I would suddenly not be able to move. My character would just stand still. I noticed this only happened when waiting for another character to do something, like open a door or pick a lock. My character would freeze. Most of the time when this happened, I could just reload and it would be fine. But there was one time in which my character froze in place that the only way I could find to fix it was to restart the entire chapter, which was a pain. When it comes to frame rates, there were also a couple moments here or there where the game dropped below 30 FPS. But to be fair, at those moments, I was playing on my old laptop that was running an RTX 2070. So performance was hit or miss. Alright, now we have fun factor. And I don't usually give number ratings, but if you surrounded me with a horde of rats and forced me to give a fun factor score, I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. The game is fun from start to finish, especially as you start getting new abilities and shots for your sling. It opens up combat and stealth to new approaches and possibilities. But the game drags on a little too long for my taste, and I wish I could have cut a couple hours off the runtime. Alright, so let's figure out where this game lands. Yes, if you're into narrative games or low fantasy games, then A Plague's Tale is 100% worth playing, even if the puzzles don't puzzle and the story stretches too long the last few hours. But it's fun and well-written cast of characters, somber world, and its unique approach to combat and stealth makes this one rat trap worth getting caught in. Well, like I said at the start, at the time of recording, this game is on Xbox Game Pass, so play it there. If at some point it leaves Game Pass, then I would recommend buying this game, but I would wait for a sale.
It's getting in my shoes.
I don't believe it.